Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, the audio version of our Facebook Live series, Art Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and I am so excited that you're here to catch the weekly replay of my laid-back yet very inspiring conversations with other full-time professional artists. The purpose of this series is to show aspiring artists like you that it is completely possible to make a great career out of this art thing. And if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll see you there. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com, that's advancedmember.com to learn more. This episode features California-based artist Lynn Hancock. Casey tells us all about her leap of faith into the art world and how making that jump from part-time hobby artist to full-time was one of the scariest things she's ever done. And I think almost every artist can relate to that, right? We talk about pricing and how she started out basically underpricing herself to stay busy, just like me, but quickly found her footing and is now a thriving artist supporting herself in one of the most expensive areas of the country. She gives us tips on Instagram marketing and how she's using that platform to make a profit. You're going to want to take notes on this week's episode with Lynn Hancock. Just kind of introduce yourself a little bit and maybe tell about like how you got started in the art world and like what was maybe the tipping point that took you from hobby to professional artist.
Sure. Like you mentioned earlier, I was in the military, and then I started doing marketing afterwards. So I worked my way up, started off as a graphic designer, then worked up to marketing director for a company. And they had me traveling a lot, and it was a great learning experience from the marketing side, but I was so bored. I was just like, I can't do this forever. Like, I'm going to shoot myself. I can't do it. Yeah. So I gave them my notice, and they used to send me to California a lot to do business with some of our customers. Yeah. And then they sent me here one too many times is what I told them. And then I just didn't want to leave. So then I ended up moving to California just because my work had sent me here a few times and I just loved it so much. Yeah. And so I gave them my notice and I said, it's now or never. If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. So just made the leap to doing it full time.
Wow. That's amazing and courageous. Yeah.
Thanks. It was the scariest thing I've ever done, 100%.
Yeah, but worth it, right? How long ago was that, you said?
Yeah.
I might have missed it.
It was a little over 2 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, not too long ago, but I've always loved art, so it wasn't far off, from what I felt like I was meant to do, but just I didn't think I could do it full time and make enough money to live, especially in California.
Yeah, especially in California.
It was scary.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing though. That's amazing. Okay. So what makes up your typical work day? Like how many hours do you spend painting? I always wonder this about other artists.
Oh, I'm obsessed. So I wake up super early and then I just either start painting right away or answering emails. I'm usually behind on emails by like a couple weeks or something, but I try. But I'll paint once I'm set up and ready to go. I'll start painting probably first thing in the morning, and I'll go for about 10 hours.
Oh my gosh!
And then probably like 6 days a week.
Wow, dedication.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I love it though. It's even there's nothing else I think I care about as much besides like my boyfriend, of course. Don't let him hear me say that. But but like other than that, I mean, in my spare time, I just want to paint or draw, and so it just doesn't feel like work. Like that's what I want to be doing, even if I'm not working.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's amazing to have like a hobby, your hobby as your passion as your job. Do you ever get tired of it then, like at the end of the week and take a day off, or?
I would say I get tired. I get tired of certain projects for sure. Like I do a lot of commissioned work, so with that comes a little bit more stress sometimes because you have these expectations and the painting's already half paid for, so you want to make sure that whatever you do, it's like the best possible thing you could do, and it just adds that extra pressure. So sometimes there's projects though where it's like, I'm not excited about this one. It's not as fun as something I would, like this Nipsey or something. It's nothing like that. It can be a little bit more like boring or whatever, but that's the only time I'm kind of like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But then I just make myself do it anyway.
Yes, dedication.
Sooner I get it done, better.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so I heard you mention you do they pay for it partly up front. Do you take a deposit, like 50%, or?
I do, yes. I always do. What I always tell everyone is that so whatever the price is, I expect or before I'll get started, I had 50%, and then the rest in shipping are due once the painting's finished.
Okay, yeah.
So it takes a little bit of trust on both sides, like they trust me to give me half the money without having anything in return, and then I trust them because I'll ship it, and then once I know the shipping cost, I'll send that to them, and then they'll pay it. So it's a little bit on both sides.
Nice, good to know. Yeah, I think that's pretty standard. I know that one of the members in here, Bonnie, she hopped on here. She was actually just asking me about this, like maybe an hour ago. So yeah, she wasn't sure if like artists took deposits, and I was like, yeah, I think everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you should, just to protect yourself, because you never know. Like you just, a lot of times, and this even happens every once in a while, this will happen, but they'll say that they really want something, and you don't want to invest a ton of your time like doing a design or coming up with something and not have anything to show for it. Because in the beginning I would do that, and then they're like, oh yeah, I want it, I definitely want it, and I put time into designing it, and then they're like, oh, something came up and like we're in the middle of buying a house, or that's the one I hear the most. It's like, oh well, we're buying a house right now, so we'll get back to you. And I'm like, okay, like everyone's buying a house, but it just comes up a lot. But so it's good to just for yourself and just your time to get it locked down. If they're serious about it, they'll pay it, and if they're not, then they won't.
Bye. Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. I feel like if they're buying a house, it's like, well, you need art to put in it, so.
Exactly. Well, I feel like I give them the price, and then they're like, okay. All of a sudden, like now we're going into closure, like on our house, we're about to buy it, so let us get that set up, and then we'll reach back out to you, and which is fine. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but I get it. It's just definitely something for people with disposable income at the time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. How many hours do you usually spend on a painting? So like, for example, the one right behind you, I'm curious just in general.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
The Nipsey one, that one I actually spent, I want to say 35 to 40 hours.
Okay, yeah.
Total. Because I always keep track of the number of hours, just because then it helps me pricing my artwork. Like I can, otherwise I won't stop, and I'll just keep going until I'll just say, this little thing, and next thing I know, it's been so many hours that it's not even profitable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I try to keep track.
For sure. Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Okay. So, can you talk to us about your painting process? I have our questions all written out right here, but can you talk about your painting process? Like, are there any methods or techniques that you picked up throughout your years of experience?
I'd say I always try to set up the composition before I even start painting. So like I used to be, well, I still am, but I used to do Photoshop like as a graphic designer full time. So I'll use Photoshop to combine images and things so I can see what it's going to look like before I start. And that's really helpful too. And I'll try to just pick my color palette, and I'll just paint, stripes on a white piece of paper just to make sure that those colors go together. Because once you start, I mean, swapping that stuff last minute sometimes happens, but it's always better to just have it all ready and planned as much as you can before you start. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Photoshop is a really good tool to learn. I mean, that's a hefty program too. Good for you. That's awesome.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. It can get a little intense, but there are certain things you can do that are pretty, basic level that just will get you the things that you need. But yeah, it takes a lot of practice and time to learn the program, but it is very helpful if you're planning on doing art.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
It's worth it.
So is there anything that you don't like to paint without?
That's a good question.
Like mine, I always say my headphones or like a podcast or something.
Oh yeah. See, what I always end up doing is I have like an iPad and I'll stream shows while I'm painting. Like sometimes I'll listen to music, but I feel like I don't know, it's just even more relaxing if I'm watching a show. I can't watch movies because they're too distracting.
Yeah.
Like everything happens so quickly that I'm like, wait, what was that? Oh, I missed it. I have to rewind it. But I'll just watch a show, and then if you miss 30 minutes or whatever, it still all makes sense because it's a series. So I'll just let it play in the background, and I'll knock out a series in a couple days.
Yeah, that's amazing how our brains can do one thing, like our hands can do one thing, and our brains can listen to a completely different thing. I think we have such a leg up as artists because I always listen to business books while I'm painting. I'm like, this is like double duty. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't. I can't paint in silence. You'd think it'd be even more relaxing, but I'm just like, I need to have noise around all the time.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of what it is, like I can't do anything without something else going on. I don't know why. Whatever.
Yeah, I always get too much in my head and like thinking about random things, and I'm like, okay, I gotta distract myself.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Are there any art lessons you've learned the hard way? Any mistakes or?
Ooh, you know what? I think, yeah, that everything's gonna be okay and you can fix anything. Like I used to get really intimidated by a big canvas. That was really hard because I'm like, oh my gosh, when I first started, I'm like, this canvas was, $150, $200 is huge. Like I'm so worried about messing up that, I'm going to ruin it. And then and even when my friends paint with me, I always tell them like, it's okay. Like you can fix anything. Like don't let that deter you and just relax. Like you can't mess it up. You really can't. Like you can paint, let it dry, paint over it, do that. But I was just always so nervous about it in the beginning. That's one of those things I'm like, just chill. Like you just take more risks and it's okay if you mess up, you can fix it.
Yeah. So true.
I was a little uptight.
Yeah, but I think we all start out like that too. And I think there are some people in the group that are still at that phase. And so it's just a nice reminder to be like have confidence, like try it out. But yeah, okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, because if you just want to push yourself. Like if you get, I'm a perfectionist by nature, so it's hard for me sometimes to like take bigger risks. I'm like, oh, no, I know this works and that I might mess up the whole thing or whatever. So it's like, I have to push myself. Like you're an artist, you need to create, like stop doing what you're safe with. You need to, if you want to excel and have your own style, you need to just push it.
So true. So true.
Still working on that every day.
Yeah, I think we all are too. Yeah, for sure. Do you have a favorite past project, like a favorite painting that you've done?
I do. The first airbrush painting I ever did, it's a 4 foot by 6 foot piece. I still have it actually. Like it's for sale, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm perfectly fine with it not selling because it's on my wall.
Yeah.
But it was just like a sentimental piece because it was the first one I did, and I just love it. It's like very impactful when I look at it. I'm like, yeah, it's really powerful. So I like that one probably the most.
Okay, yeah.
It sticks out to me.
Airbrush. I have a little airbrush. I've been meaning to experiment with it. That just sounds so much fun.
It's addicting. It's so much fun.
Is it? I bet it's a lot quicker too to do maybe just shade. Do you use airbrush and also paint? And also brush?
Sometimes it depends on the painting, but sometimes I'll do airbrush, airbrush portraits, and then I'll do a solid acrylic background. Or sometimes I'll just use the airbrush for shading, which is, once you start doing that, you'll never go back. It's addicting.
Yeah.
But yeah, little things like that. So sometimes it's the whole painting, and sometimes it's just little details.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Bonnie has a question here. She asked, do you sometimes use a projector on huge projects or canvas for proportions. I do. So I always recommend.
I do if it's like if it's a wall mural, especially like because if you can't see the whole thing, like if you're working that close to it, it's easy to get it messed up. So if you're doing like something big in a wall, go for it.
Yeah.
On my smaller stuff, I don't typically because it's just faster for me to just like section it off and do segments and just use what do they call it? I don't even know what they call it anymore.
The grid system.
Grid, like the grid. Yeah, yeah. And just do it that way. So it just depends on the piece. But for like wall stuff, especially murals, anything outdoor that's big, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, definitely do it because it's easy to get your proportions wrong on something that scale.
Cool. Yeah, Bonnie says yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
What are your future art plans or goals? What are your do you have any upcoming projects or upcoming commissions that you're super excited about? Like, what are you working on right now?
I just shipped out a commission today, actually. That was one of my clients, his fiance. It was for her birthday this coming week, so I'm excited for her to get that one. I can't post any pictures of it yet because it's a surprise, but and then I have a family portrait one that's coming up that should be good because he's letting me be creative with it and do my own thing, like my teal background, like black and white front. So that'll be fun. Other than that, I don't know. I'm finishing up a Game of Thrones one in my spare time sometimes. Like,
okay, cool.
There's always something.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. I think so. We're basically on the last question now. Is there any advice that you would give artists who want to make art their full-time career but just don't know where to start? We have a lot of people in here that are still at their full-time job, and they're like, they just need what's a good starting point?
I'd say so. When I first started, the hardest thing that I came across was pricing. That was the hardest thing because I always felt like even though I was doing it full time, at what point do you consider yourself a professional?
Yeah.
And it not being a hobby. Like that's a hard thing to just make up your mind which one, which category you fall into. And so I was always uncomfortable pricing my art because I just felt like, is it worth this? Like I think it is, but is anyone actually going to buy it? Whatever. So I started off really low. Like I was doing pretty low. I was doing custom 4-foot by 4-foot paintings for like $800, and that's big ass painting.
Yeah,
so,
lots of time.
But so they were getting a deal out of it, and by the time I was done, and I was spending so many more hours on it too, because I was still kind of just learning, and I just wanted to have projects to stay busy. So I kind of learned over time though that's why I started keeping track of how many hours and things like that to make sure that I'm utilizing my time as best as I can. That was a big thing. So keeping track of stuff like that, and then just marketing yourself. So like on Instagram, I only post about painting on my Instagram page. Like I keep it really consistent so the people that follow me, they know what they're getting. There's no if I want to post something else about whatever I do on my spare time or whatever, it just doesn't even fit in the page and no one cares, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like they're very focused on just what it is that they follow you for. So staying consistent and just try to market yourself as much as you can, things like this. Like I was just on Good Morning San Diego,
I saw that. Heck
2 weeks ago.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I've been on there a couple months ago, and they actually came to my gallery at my old studio in San Diego, and then and they loved it. So then they asked me this time to come into their studio. So this is actually like the second time, but it's free advertising. It's like you can't beat it. And it was such a great experience. They let me bring the pieces I wanted to bring, and it's just cool. So anytime you get an opportunity to do things like that, I'm still trying to do stuff and push myself outside of my comfort zone more and in the public, because most of my stuff's just online.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Long answer, but
no, that's perfect. Like the longer the better. I could chat about art all night, and they could listen about art all night.
Oh, me too. My poor boyfriend thinks I'm crazy. I'm like I get so excited. I'm like, oh my god, like what else can we talk about? Like and I did this today and this, and he's like, oh great. Probably it's just like
yeah,
but,
yeah, exactly. I feel you. So do you get most of your commissions off of Instagram? Or are they from previous customers, or what do you think?
Yeah, a lot of them are on Instagram, and referrals are huge, and just every time when somebody sends me, or at least most of the time when someone sends me a text message or something when they receive the painting or whatever, I'll screenshot and put it in my story and things like that so they can see the feedback. But yeah, Instagram is huge. The only thing about Instagram that I've noticed as of lately is that it's getting more about art, like artists follow you, which is great. But when it becomes all artists, you need to make sure that you're targeting customers as well. Because it's easy to get, like I'd say at least 2/3 of my followers are probably other artists.
Yeah.
And so it's just good to also make sure that you're talking to artists and you're reaching artists, but that you're also targeting people that will buy your art as well.
So
it's good to have a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook, I don't really market much on Facebook, just because my Instagram did well, and I just, it's kind of one or the other. It's hard to keep up with all the different social media platforms, so I just kind of dedicated myself to one and just dove in and tried to stick with it.
Yeah, that's really good advice, and also just back on your posting what people know you for too. That's such a good advice. Just a good reminder too. And I really like how you're just focusing on Instagram mostly. I feel like you found what's working. You're not going into YouTube. You're not going into this and that. You're just focusing on what's working.
I tried to do the YouTube thing, and the only thing I really use YouTube for at this point is to upload the videos that I'm going to embed on my website. To host them. But honestly, I would like to get more into YouTube because it is such a good platform, but I don't know. It's starting from scratch. So it's kind of like I need to dedicate the time to put the videos together and change up the format that I use, because I just do time-lapse videos and just knock them out. And I'm already filming it because I'm doing the painting, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But to do separate videos going through step by step, in my opinion, I'm like, who wants to watch me paint in real time? That just seems like who wants to do that? But sometimes I'll get questions, people asking, they're like, oh, do you ever do long videos in real time? I'm like, nobody wants to see that. That's so boring. I don't know.
It is.
That's at least what I think.
It kind of is too, because when you think about that, it takes 30 hours to do one painting. You spend forever on this little thing.
Yeah.
It's not entertaining. A time lapse is way more entertaining, but I guess you never know.
Yeah, I can pick a certain segment and go over how I'm doing it. Maybe that's what I'll do or something. But to make it shorter, it's just you have to think to do it. And sometimes I'm just I need to get this done, and I don't have time to do this. But you also got to think about what you're going to use to market, and it's just a balancing act of trying to figure out which pieces to use to market while actually getting work done. Otherwise, I'll spend the whole day taking pictures and for a post, and then
I totally get it.
Balance.
Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, and all the artist followers on Instagram too. Yeah, that's actually part of the reason why I started this, because I got like you get so many hey, what kind of paint do you use? Hey, what kind of this? What kind of that? And I'm I just need to let's set up a group, and let's just you all go in the group, and we can all hang out in there, and that we all share stuff with each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I think it's really cool that you're doing this. And I completely support it. I think it's awesome. Yeah. And it's great for artists to share with other artists, and we're all part of the same community, and most artists are starving. So, if you have some tips and tricks to help other artists that be successful at it, of course, I think you should definitely share.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree. Okay. I think that's about it. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but thank you so much for coming on here. I know you've inspired at least a handful of people in this group that are either watching now or will catch the replay. I'll send you the podcast episode. It'll be uploaded exactly one week from today, and you can share it if you'd like. And thank you so much again for coming on. It's so nice to virtually meet you.
Yeah, no problem. It was so nice to meet you too, and good luck with everything in the podcast. And I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years, with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com. That's advancedmember.com to learn more. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Also, if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop on over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll see you next week.